A nationwide movement protesting the actions of President Donald Trump makes a stop in Raleigh.
Yeah, organizers are calling for 50 states, 50 protests against Project 2025.
So right now I want to take you to the video from King and Story Roads of that big group that's on its way here right now. People started gathering at that spot in East San Jose around 2:30 this afternoon, and they started their march here to City Hall at around 4:15. It's going to be a little more than a 3-mile march by foot. We're expecting them anytime now, and this was put together by a coalition of labor and immigrant rights groups.
More people should be out on the streets protesting. You don't understand what's happening, and yeah, the Constitution's being trampled on, and we need to take our rights back.
What kind of power?
People power.
Who's got the power?
We've got the power.
No freedom survives when those who defend it are silenced, and we here refuse to be silenced.
On May 1st, 2025, what began as an ordinary International Workers' Day turned into an explosive national reckoning. From coast to coast, streets filled with the voices of the unheard, workers, immigrants, the poor, all united in protest against what they called an all-out war on the working class. This was no isolated flare-up. This was an eruption built on years of frustration, years of being squeezed by rising costs, job insecurity, and deepening inequality. Under President Donald Trump's second term, many believe the gap between America's elites and everyone else has widened into an unbridgeable chasm, and now people are refusing to stay silent.
I believe Donald Trump is trying to tear our country down. The only thing that makes sense is he is working on the behalf of Putin. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, like every department in our government he's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
Organized by a powerful coalition of labor unions, immigrant rights groups, and online grassroots movements like the fast-growing 5051 initiative, the protests were sparked by what demonstrators describe as a brutal, calculated dismantling of worker protections and public systems. Protesters say Trump's administration, backed by billionaire supporters like Elon Musk, has prioritized profit over people power over fairness. If we start electing candidates who work for us and not the billionaire class, if we think big and not small, brothers and sisters, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. In the words of one protester, this isn't governance, this is exploitation wearing a suit. Anger boiled over with the controversial creation of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, a Trump-Musk-backed initiative accused of aggressively cutting federal jobs, outsourcing services, and crushing unions. Schools are underfunded, public hospitals are under strain, safety nets like Medicaid are hanging by a thread. But the outrage didn't stop at policy. Across New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and beyond, demonstrators called for an end to harsh deportations, for a halt to the erosion of workers' rights, and for a government that serves all, not just the billionaire class. Many carried signs linking their cause to broader global struggles.
The highest court in the nation ruled that Kilmer should be returned home. So why are they still waiting? Enough is enough.
From Palestinian rights to gender equality and climate justice, this wasn't just an American outcry. In Berlin, Manila, Sao Paulo, international solidarity protests exploded in response to Trump's global economic moves, especially tariffs that triggered job losses and slowed production across industries. This crowd stands against President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk.
We will not be silenced!
Many abroad view Trump's policies not just as dangerous, but destabilizing on a global scale. And now the situation is getting out of hand. Major intersections are shut down, federal buildings have been surrounded, and tensions between protesters and law enforcement are rising by the day. The administration's silence, critics say, is only making the crisis worse. Fueling the fire further are Trump's sweeping tariffs, what some economists call one of the most aggressive tax hikes on the middle class in modern history. According to the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation, The average American household will now pay an estimated $2,100 more per year because of these tariffs. The U.S. imported $439 billion worth of goods from China last year, and those goods are now facing massive levies. Almost all consumer electronics, including laptops, smartphones, and tablets, are expected to spike in price.
New tariffs begin. Those new tariffs are in place today, as President Trump's increased tariffs on China started yesterday. Those taxes now total 145%. However, late Friday, the Trump administration said it would exclude electronics like smartphones and laptops.
China, Vietnam, and Taiwan, the top three suppliers of these devices, sent over $47 billion worth last year. But it doesn't stop there, because the U.S. heavily relies on Taiwan for semiconductors. Prices on laptops, household appliances, cars, medical devices, routers, and LED light bulbs are all expected to rise sharply. Even everyday necessities like shoes and toys, 70% of which are imported from China and Vietnam, will cost more. Toys alone could see a 30% price hike by late summer, just in time for back-to-school shopping. Apparel, too, is expected to become significantly more expensive, with tariffs hitting Bangladesh, India, and Indonesia as high as 49%. Industry leaders say the American supply chain simply isn't built to absorb these costs, and any attempt to shift production back to the United States could still mean higher prices for consumers due to domestic manufacturing costs. In short, Trump's tariffs are hitting Americans where it hurts most, their wallets. And many feel like they're paying more while getting less. And now the situation is getting out of hand. Major intersections are shut down, federal buildings have been surrounded, and tensions between protesters and law enforcement are rising by the day. The administration's silence, critics say, is only making the crisis worse. Worse, protesters are no longer just demanding policy change, they're demanding accountability. They want the deportations reversed, the unions protected, the social programs restored. They want a future where public schools are funded, healthcare is a right, and working families aren't treated as disposable. At its core, this May Day movement isn't just about wages or jobs. It's about dignity, about being seen, about a reckoning that's been brewing in America's underpaid, overworked, and overlooked communities for too long, and they're not backing down.